Take one.
Oh.
All right, so look, I was having a conversation the other day, and I was talking to a good friend of mine. He happens to be the president of the NFFF, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Led me down this rabbit hole, and I hit you up last week, and I said, Clay, I'm thinking firefighters. And you said, oh my gosh.
We love firefighters.
Yeah, and I said, so look at this, because I think there's a huge angle here. And considering what you've created with the route and what it does, and what in my thought process is what they need at a time when we should be giving back to our first responders as opposed to taking away. I said, look, let me actually just come in here and have a quick conversation. So I'm on the phone with Rahm from the NFFF, and I'm like, how is your fundraising going? How is everything going? I used to be very active in the NFFF when in my previous life. And he's like, well, our fundraising is down. There's a lot of deaths coming from 9/11, the 9/11 disease. I don't actually know the name of it, but all those first responders that embarked upon the towers on that crazy day. And a lot of those people are now 20 years later dying because of what they went through then. All of those things, I actually have tingles right now just thinking about it. But all of those things led me to I gotta call Clay, I gotta have a conversation. There's too much synergy here not to put that out and not to at least share this in some manner. Yep. And I want you to, I'm gonna actually, for anybody that's gonna watch this, I'm gonna ask Clay to dumb it down and keep it simple, because sometimes you go...
We can geek out a little bit.
Sometimes you geek out, and I start to think I don't understand what you're saying, so I need you to slow the roll and bring it back for me and reel it in. But give me... so when I called you 2 weeks ago and I said, hey, look, in the next couple weeks, let's get together, and thank you for making time to get together so quickly, where did your mind go when I said firefighters, toxins, the route?
The first thing is risk, right? And I think with firefighters, and we can say all first responders, but I think the firefighters are the ones that are the true first responders in most instances. If you have chaos, like 9/11 is the best example. They're the ones that are going, okay, shit happened. We're running into the building when everybody else wants to get out without ever looking at what their true risks are. And like you were mentioning, now 20 years later, they're paying the consequences of the risk that they assume, but really the sacrifice that they made to save as many people as possible.
Doing their job.
Yeah, and you sign up for that job, and most people, you look at that and you go, I really respect the role, the position, because people love firefighters, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be a special human being to be a firefighter. You do. Regardless. Like to be a police officer, a firefighter, you have to be a special human being, and you have to serve. You have to have that serving mentality, yeah. And it seems cool when you're a kid. For some reason, it's gotten less cool lately. But I'd like to reimplant. It is cool, kids.
Yeah,
it's
very
great.
Cool.
It's great to serve, and we should all be thankful for that service. But more than anything, you do have to be a special human being to do that, and there isn't a huge amount of sacrifice that goes into any job, but these types of jobs in general.
And it's important to understand that it's a special personality type, but they're not superhuman.
Yeah.
You're human, and it's because we're human that we're punished for exposure to our environment, and the firefighter role is one that there's some great published literature that shows the risk factors, but I don't think people truly understand the exposure that firefighters, because it's men and women, put themselves in. And I think the fires in California, not just this year, but over the last decade, have started to bring to light greater issues. Because it's funny, you have to go back to the root cause of things. right? In all aspects, which is why root has its name. And but trees are nature's means of remediation of the environment. We know that trees will pull carbon dioxide out of the air. They'll convert it to oxygen. They'll also remediate soil, right? So they'll pull toxins out of the soil and soak it up into the wood to keep it out of the environment. Problems arise when
said wood burns.
When wood burns. So we look at forest fires, and there's some great literature that's been published over the last couple of years, articles in California about the smoke inhalation, smoke exposure, and not just the smoke itself, because people think the smoke is toxic. It's not the smoke, it's what's in the smoke. It's what you're inhaling, it's what you're being exposed to. But people don't take the next step, because what are our homes made of? What are buildings made of? All of the worst areas that firefighters go into. When you look at the worst fires that you see in the news and you say, this building's on fire, what is it? It's a freaking chemical fire in a wood building. So you go, okay.
Chemicals,
wood, everything else, and you have guys running into that to try to address the issue, or they're around it, and their PPE equipment has been proven to be toxic.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what I didn't equate to, because even though they're maybe masked up and have oxygen when they go into the building, I didn't think that their turnout gear is full of so many toxins that as they come out of that building basically steaming,
yeah, you go,
the fumes are just coming off of not only like the byproduct of the fire that they just left of, but the fumes that are just steaming off of them, and they take off their oxygen. They're sitting there, you know, in my mind, you know, I see in a movie a firefighter come out of a burning building. He throws his stuff off. He's a hero. He saved the cat, the kid, the wife, whatever it is, and he sits there and he's in his turnout gear and everything is kind of sizzling, and he throws it off and he's just like beat, and he's like, man, you know, and there's the hero shot on film. And in my mind I'm going, that guy's now like literally like breathing in and just enjoying a toxic soup, like, but then cocktail.
They don't throw the suits away when they leave that. They get in the truck.
Oh yeah, they go back. Put them back in their locker.
With those suits, and they might hose them off a little bit, but they're back in the truck. Then they go back to the firehouse, and all that stuff is just coming off of them, and they're inhaling it.
I wonder what the toxicity level of a firehouse is.
Yeah.
So regardless. I just want to,
because I don't want to rabbit hole we go.
I don't want to bore the people, but I do want to put something together, so we're kind of showing, and I want to show this to the people that I know in that industry, and I want to see their feeling on it, because. So when I asked Ron, I said, Ron, what do most firefighters die of? He was like, heart disease, cancer. Heart attack, cancer. They don't die in a fire. They die of all these byproducts of living their life this way for 20, 30 years, and then something else kills them. And so that's why I was like, I got to call Clay. Because...
And it's twofold when it comes to that. When we look at heart attacks and heart failure, hundreds of published clinical studies showing heavy metals and environmental toxins causing heart disease, COPD, high blood pressure, hypertension, hypercholesteremia, I think I said COPD. You can go down the list of respiratory and cardiovascular effects of heavy metals and environmental toxins, and they're the primary cause of the issue. So you say, okay, you're in a profession that you're getting exposed to all of this stuff continually.
By the way, the average person is exposed to this stuff at such a high level that we're seeing we're seeing that they're so toxic, but now we're saying you're not the average person. You're the average person times 10.
Or
times 100.
Probably times 1,000.
Yeah.
And when you really look at the exposure, and
so the mercury,
cadmium, arsenic, lead, aluminum, cesium, strontium, you can throw in radioactive isotopes now from depleted uranium if you ever served in the Middle East, which is
rabbit
a
hole,
other conversation. But you have, because firefighters that served in the military that come back and that are now firefighters here. So this is the hard part, right? That these toxins are so pervasive. You can't just look at one narrow aspect and say, okay, this is what the issue is. But then you take all the exposure and then you add stress, because they work in one of the most stressful professions, because one, you have to be on call because you don't know when something's going to hit the fan, and you don't know what that emergency is going to be. You don't know when it's going to be, how it's going to take place, how big it is, and that's compounded because we know stress damages every part of the body. Chronic stress is toxic to the body. You compound both of those things, and then you say, oh man, my risk factors are through the roof, which is then why you look at a profession and you say, okay, what's the average life expectancy, and what are the risks? Cancer, cardiovascular disease. Well, why cancer? Because of your exposure to toxins that have been proven and shown, and whether it's the Environmental Working Group, if it's Harvard, if it's the National Cancer Institute, every major research institution will tell you that 50 to 90% of all cancer is caused by toxins and pollutants. So you go, my environment's killing me. And that's true for everyone, like you said, but for some of us, depending upon our exposure, it kills us quicker.
So when I hit you up a couple weeks ago and I said, I want you to think about firefighters, and I want to keep this short because I want you to think about firefighters. What did you learn in the first 20 minutes of you thinking about firefighters? Because I know that you hit me up. You literally hit me with a flurry of like, oh my God, like text, and like article after article. And then I was like, oh, this is going to be a humdinger. And we probably, again, I want to keep this short and sweet. But like, what did you learn? Like abbreviated in the first 10 minutes of looking at this stuff.
It's exposure. I think to bring it down to simplest terms, it's exposure. You can't argue the point. Yeah. You can't say, we know that as human beings, we are conceived toxic. We think that we're born into a clean environment. We're not. Yeah. I mean, that's been very well proven. But in the profession, when you can, like when we talk, you're like, hey, get me some information on this and your thoughts. And when you can take 18 seconds and type in 3 or 4 words and toxins and firefighters, and it goes, and Google says, here's 37,000 articles.
Yeah, my text thread just went boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh my goodness, we are going to have a...
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's your, it's like David Letterman, here's your top 10 list. And you go, well, the top 10 is not even close. Yeah. So it's a matter of understanding, okay, here's the problem. But then we've become a society that so likes to talk about problems, but no one cares about the problem, right? Even for firefighters, we know that, okay, fires are the problem, but they're like, no, we're the solution.
Yeah. So
how do you solve the problem? And that's bridging the gap of, instead of just talking about the issue, but saying, okay, let's create some solutions.
So then let's back up for 2 seconds, because we've spent, I do want to make this, I don't want to make it too long because people can't hold their concentration. But so we haven't mentioned what you do. Okay, so like and let's focus on the toxic aspect. And I think that you know who you are and what you've been working on for the last 15 or 16 years, and since I've become to know you, is just very serendipitous. The fact that I was like firefighters because they're important to me, and then you were like, I was like, Clay, this totally makes sense, because when I met you and we started talking, I wasn't like, oh, this would be great for firefighters. And now, like, a year later or whatever, I'm like, oh man, firefighters are here. So why don't you give me literally 2 minutes, the high level, what you've created, which is called the Root brand. Yep. And you have 2 products in the brand. I'll do a quick. So you've started this company called the Root brand. You started in 2020.
COVID, baby.
Yeah. 2020, man. 2020. Great time to start a company.
Yep,
You're actually being very successful, so congratulations. You're crushing it, to be quite honest with you. So we've got a company that started in 2020. You've been working for 15, 16 years on researching and putting this together. And now here you are, COVID happens, toxicities around the world, and the Root brand. And what is the Root brand? What does it stand for? Actually, I'll even tell what it stands for. The pillars of the Root brand, right?
Yep.
Authenticity, integrity, simplicity,
yep.
Education.
Yep.
So I want you to take the first 3 we got. I want you to educate them on what the Root products are, why they're impactful, and I think it'll be clear why it would be great for the firefighter industry to understand them.
It's just mission and purpose, like you said. It's a matter of understanding. 15 years ago, I grew up in a veterinary practice, and I was banned from being a doctor when I was 12, which was the best advice my dad ever gave me. And through that journey, he told me, figure out what your deal is, figure out your path. And I've spent my entire life around wellness, nutrition, sports performance, athletics, animal health, human health. And 16 years ago, my perspective completely changed, because we always focus on nutrition and supplementation. You got to eat right, you got to add supplements in. But I had an epiphany, from a phone call that changed my entire perspective. You started to look at what the cause is, and life's really simple. Wellness is actually really simple. It's just addition by subtraction. And instead of adding stuff in, you got to get the bad stuff out, because we're exposed from the womb all the way through, and some people, expose themselves to more stuff than others. And then it was a matter of, like I was mentioning, instead of worrying about talking about the subject and saying, oh, we're all polluted, we're all going to die because all of these chemicals, these pollutants that are in the air, that are in the water, that are in the soil.
Chemtrails, you've got glyphosate,
we go down a rabbit hole, and people go, wait a minute, this is just horrible. But instead of worrying about the problem, you got to create solutions. And nature is always there to provide what we need. And there's a specific volcanic crystal that has been used for millennia for its ability to detoxify the environment. We took that crystal, and instead of using it in a powdered form, which is just basically grinding the rock up, we created a couple different processes that break apart that crystal and make it water into solution and fragments small enough that can work throughout your body to do what it does naturally. So you can take it orally, or you can use it topically, and it'll grab onto heavy metals.
You say crystal, I feel like I'm walking in Superman's cave right now, and there's a
exactly. It's funny the resonance with that. That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down.
But it's my understanding is this substance clinoptilolite is like a volcanic ash.
Yeah, it's made from volcanic ash that forms a crystal, and people are familiar with quartz, right?
Yeah.
Because Superman, and if we were going to take Superman, you'd say fireman. You go, same. And there's a resonance that happens with crystals and with humans, and people are familiar with quartz. Well, quartz is a zeolite, and zeolite is the class of minerals and clays that all of these fall under.
Yeah.
So bentonite, some people are familiar with, clinoptilolite, quartz. And clinoptilolite is really unique because it's quartz-like in its crystalline form, but it acts like a negatively charged honeycomb that will grab onto and bind toxins. So if you think of this honeycomb, and if you look at a bee box, right? So you have a cube of a honeycomb, and if you break that honeycomb up into smaller fragments, one, you increase the surface area, but you get access to a lot more of that honeycomb than just looking at the outside. That's basically what we've done with this crystal, and then make nano and micro-sized fragments that are then able to work systemically throughout your body, so it can get into the areas where these toxins, these chemicals, these pollutants are stored in the body, where they cause their damage, and passively trap them and remove them.
Okay, so back up. So let's put it back down to the kindergarten level for me. You've created this I call it like a tincture, but like a tincture.
A solution.
A solution. You created this solution out of this volcanic ash crystal substance that is from nature. That you then, I know that I actually have been taking it for a bit, and I've been killing it. So I'm pretty stoked with where I am, but and I'll share, I used it for the first 7 days. I called you and I was like, Clay, I lost 8 pounds in 7 days, and you were like, yeah, that's just,
it happens.
Yeah, you were like, that's just, what'd you tell me?
It's negative inflammation.
Yeah,
removing toxins that cause the negative inflammation. And the funny part is when we look at firefighters, right? There's a lot of people have the assumption, because we were joking about this initially, a lot of people when they think firefighters, they think calendar.
Yeah. That's like 2% of the guys though, right? There's like 2% of the dudes that are like calendar, the rest of the dudes are like big dudes.
Everybody's like, wow, you know what, I look kind of good, I'm fit. And just go, well, that's not everybody, because like we were talking about, you have guys that have been in the profession, and it's multi-generational, which is the cool part, because if you have dads and grandfathers that were firefighters, and a lot of times you have dads and grandfathers that are still in service, that their kids or their grandkids are then going in as well. And you don't see guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that look like they should be in a calendar.
By the way, funnily enough, we now know that you can pass toxicity from womb, from parent. So I didn't think about this, but what you just said is so prevalent, because you have a guy that's his dad was a firefighter. Well, his dad was full of toxins in that world. Then he had him with his mom, and then he obtained some of those. And he got all of his own as well. So it kind of just builds and builds and builds until we see where we are right now. And then so this is a rabbit hole that we really can go down.
And you look at the transference of firefighters coming home, because even when they come home, they might have taken a shower, they might have washed off, but what's in them that's being expelled is going into mom if they're sleeping together in bed, which is common for married couples.
Yeah.
So
actually, firefighters have a tough married life.
Yeah, exactly. Because of their exposure and the stress and everything else that they endure.
Okay,
rabbit hole.
So let's back it up. We haven't even said, so you've created a product that you have named Clean Slate.
Yep.
That its entire purpose is to go inside to your body in this honeycomb, and we're jumping all around. So this isn't. We're just two dudes on the couch right now, which sounds weird, but at the end of the day,
it's not a roll call.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you've created this tincture, this substance out of this zeolite, clenoptilolite crystal, made it a tincture, and its whole job is literally to go in and you take this stuff twice a day, and its job is to go in and bind to toxins in your body and pass them out through pee, poo,
just flush them out.
Flush them out. So that's why I've bored everybody. Anybody that's still watching right now, number one, I'm shocked because we're a show. But anyways, that's the premise of all of this, and why I was like, we have to get to the fire industry. It is imperative that we allow them to know about this, because I would argue, their number one problem is these toxins. I mean, what we've just talked about.
It's not even our assumption. It's an industry standard.
Well, yeah.
It's known. It's like, hey guys, you're dying because of your exposure. The interesting part was, it's not an area that I had really researched much to get into, because I didn't have the access to the population.
Yeah.
But the work you've done, you're like, hey, this is a group.
These
of
guys
people
need this more than ever. But the crazy thing that I'm sitting here recognizing right now is, you have this, we always talk about in our deep philosophical conversations that we have as friends. We talk about these things where, Mother Nature, the world, there's all this good versus evil, and you literally have to wrap this all up. You talk about the trees and earth sucking in these toxins, and then by us, man, tearing them down, burning them, one thing or another, or whatever, then being exposed to that, and then so then nature again is letting off these toxins that we're as man making worse, but whatever, I don't want to go down that hole. And then we're taking another form of nature in this clenoptilolite and processing it to then put back into us to solve said problems. And the great thing about this is that it is literally going to the core, the root, which is the name why you named it the root, but the root cause of the problem, because we as humans should actually be able to flush most of the things, and our bodies are the most sophisticated thing I think on the planet.
Yep.
Better than any supercomputer or anything else. Our body is the most unique, special organism. And for us to be able to have something like this to then clear these other things, it is a huge, huge benefit. And we should be giving, or at least the point of this isn't to sell, the point of this isn't to sell something, I think that this will sell something, by the way, but the point of this is to just make them aware and give this to the fire community, because they are literally standing there going, we're dying of these things, and you're sitting here going well, have you, you're thirsty, here's some water.
Would you like water?
Yeah, this is we're full of toxins, try this, and then kind of go from there. So
I think one of the key points that you hit on is the approach. We're not trying to sell something.
No.
But if you have a model that rewards sharing,
that's a whole and that we should do an actual.
And there will be a conversation.
Yeah, we should do a conversation on that in general. But this is probably, I think this is the most unique business model that I've seen in the last 10 years. That I've been really digging into business, but in particular, right now, today, my biggest goal is to at least put some of this information onto a piece of film that is not too long. How long are we? How many minutes we at?
25.
Jesus, we went over. We went over 23 minutes. And see if we can get somebody to recognize the value of this. Because, so really quickly, I want to end this in the next 4 minutes. Clean Slate. First of all, the Root brand, right? And then Clean Slate is one product. The other product is a product called Zero In. Give me just 2 seconds on Zero In.
Dopamine and serotonin on demand. So instead of using artificial stimulants and drugs, you can use something natural that feeds your gut the ability to produce the neurotransmitters you need to be calm, be relaxed, be focused. You ever think a firefighter needs to just be in tune and zeroed in,
so look,
in the zone when they have to respond to something and be relaxed and be focused? That's what Zero In
I would
does.
never be sitting here if I didn't actually use the products and think they're amazing. So Zero In is something that turned me into a machine really early until I learned how to use it. And then it's actually, I thought it was like some sort of stimulant because when I used it, I got so... I tend to run at a high pace. Anybody that knows me, generally speaking, but it wound me in a way. And then I realized that after watching a lot of your documentary, like a lot of your research with that crazy German dude, and after like listening to that and understanding what, and he was even like, I've never seen anything like this. The fact, you got a guy who's like 65 or 70 years old who's been a scientist for his entire life saying, I've never seen anything like this, and you're like, maybe I should pay attention. But it gets me going in the morning and gets me focused, and then at night I literally destroy sleep. And I think that for somebody who's spent 30 years of their life trying to be in shape and only spent the last 5 or 6 years of their life being out of shape, thank you so much. This is what that looks like. But having the ability and knowing
That's why we're not on a calendar.
Yeah, exactly. I'm no longer on a calendar. I'm in my youth, but being able to say like sleep is so important, and I actually felt that this got me going, and then it makes me sleep really hard at the end of the day, and I think it's super unique, and it would be a great thing for the firefighters.
And how many firefighters need to sleep well?
Well,
because you have a profession that leads to and creates erratic sleep patterns.
Yeah.
So the importance of getting into REM sleep and getting deep sleep, even if you're not guaranteed the 7 to 8 hours, if you get 4 or 5 and it's deep, it can be very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
And we could take a poll on that. We could look at the profession and go, hey, you guys don't sleep well either.
Yeah.
It's like, and part of that's due to toxins, but part of it's just due to the environmental stress of the profession.
Yeah, and your lifestyle in general, and running this 24-hour shift.
So let's look at that real quick. Here's the synopsis. Do you want to live better, die later, not be sick, not have the risks that you deal with currently, and do you want to sleep better, feel better, function better? Okay, good trade.
Our friends over at Bubs have a hat that says, die as late as possible.
Yeah.
Like die young. Actually, they're die young as late as possible.
Yeah.
And that's it. So look, this was my. Are we at a half hour?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. So okay.
We went from saying,
I'll give you this.
Let's do this 2 minutes, and it's like,
now we have 2 minutes left. So you have 30 seconds to say anything you'd want to say to the fire industry, specifically first responders that might catch their eye, and if they only listen to 30 seconds of this entire shit show, then what would you say in 30 seconds?
Root is the Jerry Winger, or not Jerry Winger, that's Jerry Springer. He was doing interviews. The Jerry Maguire of supporting firefighters. Help me help you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of just really looking at the cause. You guys know what your cause is. You know what the issues are that you face, and you haven't had a solution. Here's your sign. Here's your calling. Here.
There you go.
Here's your gift. It's Christmas time.
All right, so let's wrap on that. We could probably do 25 more of these on different things, and at least a couple more on different professions, and more even into the fire industry. I'm going to send this to my friend because I didn't want to pull him into it. I want to have a really impromptu conversation with you so he could kind of see how that was going to work. And then if anybody in the fire industry ever sees this, know that it comes from a place of love. So that's it. We're out. This is from the Root office in Nashville, Tennessee.